Hey, what's up guys? This is my second video on this MDX series. In my first video, we learned about how to open MDX query editor, and we also wrote some very basic MDX queries. In this video, we will work around dimensions, hierarchies, levels and members. It is very important to learn these concepts if you want to get expertise on MDX. Otherwise, you won't be able to write meaningful and powerful MDX queries. This is the agenda. Today I'll talk about hierarchy types, dimension types. Then we will see how to access all level member in a hierarchy explicitly. Later on, we will see how to access individual member on a hierarchy. After that, I'll show you few rules that you should keep in mind while working with members. At last, we will see how to use CrossJoin function. In SAS, we have two kinds of hierarchies: attribute hierarchy and user defined hierarchy. Attribute hierarchy. By default, all attributes have an all member, so we can call any attribute as attribute hierarchy. Attribute hierarchy are represented as blue rectangle composed of 6 small squares. For example, in product dimension, category attribute is an attribute hierarchy, and it is represented by blue rectangle composed of 6 small squares. User hierarchy. A user hierarchy is a hierarchy which is created when dimensions are designed in bits. A user hierarchy has 3 or more levels, including the all level at the top. User hierarchies are represented as blue triangle composed of 6 small squares. For example, in product dimension, product category is a user defined hierarchy, and it is represented by a blue triangle composed of 6 small squares. When you expand product categories hierarchy, you can see that it has 4 levels. First is all product, second is category, third is subcategory, and fourth is product. From performance point of view, user hierarchies comes in two flavors: natural user hierarchies and unnatural user hierarchies. Natural user hierarchies performs better than unnatural user hierarchies. When you design natural user hierarchies, you set attribute relationship between the attributes in the levels, and there is a one-to-many relationship from one level to a lower level. Unnatural user hierarchies do not have attribute relationship between the attributes, and often there is a many-to-many relationship between the members of the levels. From number of hierarchies that a dimension contains, we can divide dimensions into two categories: single hierarchy dimension and multiple hierarchy dimension. Single hierarchy dimension. Any dimension who has only one hierarchy is called single hierarchy dimension. For example, sales channel dimension is a single hierarchy dimension because it has only one attribute, which is sales channel. Multiple hierarchy dimension. As you can assume now, any dimension who has more than one hierarchy is called as multiple hierarchy dimension. Since attribute are also hierarchy, all dimension who has more than one attribute are also multiple hierarchy dimension. For example, sales region dimension is a multiple hierarchy dimension because it has two attribute hierarchy and one user defined hierarchy. As I said before, by default every hierarchy has an all level. If you want to access all level explicitly, you must follow the syntax as dimension.hierarchy.all. Let's say you want to access all level of category hierarchy. You can do by writing query like Here you can see I follow the syntax like dimension.hierarchy.all. This is a very important part of this video. While working with dimension and hierarchy, you should remember that dimension contains one or more hierarchies. Hierarchy contains two or more levels. Level contains members. So because level contains member and hierarchy contains levels, hierarchy contains members too. I know it's really confusing, but if you want to become expert and productive on MDX, you must understand this concept. To access members of dimension or level, we can use .members function. It is a property function because it is preceded by dot. In the next two slides, I'll show you how .member function works on attribute hierarchy and user hierarchy. First, we will see how it works on attribute hierarchy. As you know now, by default, attribute hierarchy has two levels, all level and attribute level. When you use .members function on attribute hierarchy, it will return each and everything. To prove this, let me write this query. In this output, you can see all level as well as individual attributes from attribute level. So if you use .members on attribute hierarchy, it returns everything. When you use .members function on attribute level, it will return all attributes from attribute level, but it will not return all level. To prove this, we can simply add category attribute level in our previous query. This time you can see query did not return all level, but it returned all members from attribute level. If you also want to see all level after all category members, you should write query like this. By default, MDX returns default member if .members property function is omitted and explicit reference for a members is not being used. For hierarchy, all level is default, and for attribute level, level members are default. So if you remove .members and .all member reference from the previous query, it will still return the same result. As you can see, the result is still the same. If you want to access individual member of a level, you should write query like this. If you want to access more than one member, you can write query like this. Exactly, same rule applies to user hierarchy. By default, user hierarchy have at least 3 levels, including all level. Just like attribute hierarchy, when you use .members function on user hierarchy, it will return each and everything. When you use .members function on any level, it will return all members from that level only. Just like attribute hierarchy, all level is default for user hierarchy and level members are default for individual levels. Just to give you an example, I'll reuse one query that we wrote for attribute hierarchy. In this query, we use category, which is an attribute hierarchy. We can get the same result by using product categories user hierarchy, which also has category level. You can see that it produced the same result. On this slide, I'll talk about some rules that you should remember when you are working with hierarchy and dimensions. First rule, you can't have a row axis unless you have a column axis first. For example, this query will not work. This query returned an error because I tried using row axis without using the column axis. To fix the error, I'll use blank column axis . Now this query should work. My mistake. So as a rule, you cannot have a row axis unless you have a column axis first. The second rule is you cannot use same hierarchy from the same dimension on two axes. For example, following query will not work. The error clearly says that the calendar hierarchy already appears in the axis 0, which is actually a column axis, which means that you cannot use the same hierarchy from the same dimension on both the axes. To fix the error, what I'll do is I'll simply change the hierarchy on the row axis. Now this query is working. The last rule is you cannot use two different hierarchies from the same dimension on the same axis. For example, the following query will not work. As you can see, this query failed because I tried using two different hierarchies from the same dimension on the same axis. To fix this error, I'll just need to change the hierarchy. Now it should work. In this last query, we displayed months after the calendar year. Even though the output is correct, but most of the time it makes no sense showing all months after the year. It will be great if you can show all members of each calendar year in a separate column, as you can see here. You can achieve this result by using CrossJoin function, which is the last topic in this video. CrossJoin is a function. More specifically, it is a method function. Property functions like dot members use the dot notation and follow the object. Method function precede the object. Let me show you how we can use CrossJoin function to get the output in that format. It's working, and you can see this beautiful output. This last query worked because we used two different hierarchy inside the CrossJoin function. If you use the same hierarchy, then it will fail. For example, the following query will fail. As you can see, this query failed, saying that the calendar hierarchy is used more than once in the CrossJoin function, which means You cannot use the same hierarchy from the same dimension more than once in the CrossJoin function. What if you want to see year and month on row axis and country and product category on axis 2? In the next query, we will do this. This query is working. It means that you can use CrossJoin function on both axes. You can also use CrossJoin inside a CrossJoin. For example, if you want to show category, country and measures on the same axis, you should use CrossJoin inside a CrossJoin. I must have made some mistake. So as you can see, this query is working without any issue, which means that you can use CrossJoin inside a CrossJoin. There are few tips that you should remember while using CrossJoin function. The first tip is a CrossJoin function does not always require CrossJoin function name. Previous query will still work even if you remove CrossJoin function name, provided that the opening parenthesis and the closing parenthesis all is still there. For example, if I remove all the CrossJoin function name reference from this query should still work. So as you can see, CrossJoin function name is not always required, provided that you are still using the opening and the closing parenthesis. The next step is you can also use multiplication symbol, which is same as using the CrossJoin function. You can see this here. From this previous query, I'll remove the opening parenthesis and the closing parenthesis, and here I'll use the multiplication symbol and I'll remove this and this as well, this and this as well, and I also put multiplication symbol here, and I'll remove this and this, and I'll put multiplication symbol here. You can see that it returned the same result. This video ends here. We will continue our MDX journey in my next video. Thank you for watching this video. If you want me to improve the quality of these videos, content and presentation, or if you have any question, please let me know in the comment area. And also, please subscribe